Well, we can go ahead and get started at the interest of time, and we'll let people continue to join from the waiting room as they become available. But I want to say thank you for joining us. My name is Taniecea Mallery, and I'm the Executive Director of Strategic Initiatives and Chief Diversity Officer here at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. We're really excited to host this event this week, which is, a busy week for many of us on campus. It's the first week of classes, and it's bustling with energy. Faculty and staff are now back on campus, many of them. We have students that are on campus really excited to see each other and kind of reunite after so much time away from campus. And so we're really excited to engage our community around this really important and timely topic. While many of us were away from campus over the summer, we certainly were still really engaged with the national conversation and thinking about, how that impacts us here on our campus with, a number of rallies throughout the community in support of the Black Lives Matter movement and against police brutality that were prompted by the killing of George Floyd. And that kind of spiraled into a number of discussions around what each of us as individuals can do to help support Black students, faculty, and staff here on our campus. So throughout the summer, even though we didn't have a physical presence on campus, many of us convened virtually. We had a number of forums, like the Black Faculty and Staff Association hosted a forum for amplifying Black voices. We had a number of forums hosted by SGA, and a number of our student organizations led efforts to engage around these topics as well. And so what we've seen is that there's been a lot of energy around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And our whole community has really rallied together to think about what it is that we really need to do to move forward as a university. What are the opportunities for increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion on campus? And so we see this convening, this series of 2 sessions today and Thursday this week as an opportunity to engage the community. We've had a number of opportunities to talk to students, faculty, and staff. And I think really we wanted an opportunity to engage alumni in this conversation, to engage community members in this conversation, and to really provide both an educational perspective in terms of, what is our approach related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how a number of our university administrators are taking that on in their roles and really taking ownership of infusing diversity, equity, and inclusion across the university. So that's really going to be the focus of today's session. I encourage you all, if you haven't already registered, to join us on Thursday as well. That's going to be a really great complementary session to today that's going to feature a number of alumni and current students that'll be sharing their perspectives about their experience here on campus, whether that's last week or whether that is 10 years ago. And so I think we'll have some really interesting conversations then about the state of Black UL and how that has evolved over time. And so really looking forward to that event as well and encourage you to check that out. So thank you again for being here today. I'll go ahead and kind of kick it off. And I'll introduce our panelists for today. As we kind of go through the session, the layout of how today will run, just to give you some housekeeping tips. As you see in the chat box, we're encouraging you guys throughout the presentation portion of this evening. If you have any questions at all for the panelists, please drop those in the chat box, and we will moderate those at the end of the formal presentations. We'll have some time for Q&A toward the end of today's session. So please feel free to engage with the chat box feature. That's a really great way to kind of get involved with the discussion. And then I'll go ahead and do just a brief introduction of our panelists for today, and I'll kind of jump in with an overview of our strategic plan for inclusive excellence, which really frames the approach for how we see diversity, equity, and inclusion on campus and how we're working to advance those. So I want to welcome our panelists. We have Patricia Cottenham, who serves as the Vice President for Student Affairs. We have Dr. DeWayne Bowie, who serves as the Vice President for Enrollment Management. We have Dr. Bobbie DeCuir, who is the Dean of University College. And we have Paul Thomas, who is our Chief Human Resources Officer. So again, thank you to our panelists, and you'll get to hear from each of them individually about each of their roles. So just to kind of frame and kind of set a foundation for today's discussion, I'll go ahead and share my screen for a bit. Many of you who are part of our university community, I see a number of familiar faces like faculty and staff, and some students on the line as well, who may already be familiar with our strategic plan for inclusive excellence. It's been a labor of love. It was produced by the Diversity Advisory Council, which is an advisory group made up of 35 students, faculty, staff, and community members who really worked over the course of a full academic year to produce this document that is a really great roadmap for 3 years, from 2019 to 2022. It was released at the beginning of fall 2019, which happens to be a really timely release, but it has really served as a foundation for us to think institution-wide about how each of us in various departments and units can contribute to the broader university goals. So I wanted to just give a brief overview of what that strategic plan for inclusive excellence is for those of you who are in the community and alumni, so that you can really get a picture of where we see ourselves going and how we view ourselves as an institution when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So let me go ahead and see if I can share my screen here for a second. All right, so our strategic plan for inclusive excellence, I mentioned that it was created by the Diversity Advisory Council and released this past fall, 2019. And really what we wanted to do is to reimagine the mission and vision of the Campus Diversity Office, really in line with thinking about a campus-wide commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the things that I have many conversations with students, faculty, and staff about in terms of my role in where I sit in the Campus Diversity Office is really just the chief collaborator. It's really someone who will work across the university and partner with everyone, because diversity, equity, and inclusion is everyone's job. And so we really wanted our mission and our vision to reflect that. And so the Office for Campus Diversity really seeks to cultivate an inclusive learning environment that values different perspectives and promotes intercultural engagement. So you might see even in that mission, everybody has a role to play. Our vision is that we strive to create a diverse and inclusive community in which all members feel valued, respected, and able to reach their full potential. I think that really is the goal. We see time and time again that underrepresented, minority, marginalized students often have experiences where they might encounter challenges that really create a barrier for them and their success. And so we really want to be able to identify those barriers and alleviate those. And so we've organized the work of the Campus Diversity Office and really institution-wide in terms of 5 strategic imperatives. And this is based on some national frameworks for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those are access and success, education, scholarship, and professional development, institutional climate and intergroup relations, institutional infrastructure, and community engagement. And I'll touch briefly on each of those so you kind of have an idea of what I mean by those. This is kind of just a visual representation of all of those 5 strategic imperatives and our framework for thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Access and success, the first strategic imperative, it's really about the numbers, right? It's the first idea or the first thought that we have when we think about diversity. We think, okay, what is the composition of our campus community? Do we have a diverse representation in terms of our undergraduate and graduate student body and our faculty and staff? And where we have opportunities to grow, perhaps we need some targeted interventions. And so I'll give you a couple of examples of initiatives that we've launched in recent years. One on the student side and one on the faculty and staff side. a number of our student organization leaders came together a couple years ago to create an initiative called Black Print. And PRINT is an acronym that stands for Black, Proud, Resilient Individuals Networking Together. And it's a coalition of a number of student organizations that we have on campus that really recognize the need for connecting incoming freshmen with opportunities to connect with resources to support Black student success on campus. It's also an opportunity for networking so that incoming freshmen can get plugged into student organizations that they might want to join, but also connect with really important resources for them on campus. And then the second thing I wanted to mention here is that we've really started to have some targeted conversations with search committees and also with graduate admissions folks and graduate coordinators in particular about strategies for inclusive hiring and admissions. And that's a really interesting new initiative that we've kind of launched in terms of breaking down the hiring process into all the different facets and having really interesting, conversations, deep thinking conversations about where unconscious bias can seep into those processes and how we may not be aware of the things that we do and how they might hinder our ability to recruit a diverse population of graduate students and faculty. So those are a couple of initiatives that we've launched for access and success. The next strategic imperative is education, scholarship, and professional development. And that's really around both curricular elements and co-curricular elements. So things like making sure diversity, equity, and inclusion is reflected in the coursework that our students take, but also in the professional development opportunities that we offer for faculty and staff. And also that we promote research that is focused on issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So two initiatives that I'll highlight here are our Courageous Conversations workshop, which we launched it in fall 2016, and it's been a really popular, really well-attended series of workshops that we host monthly throughout the academic year. And they really focus on strategies for inclusive teaching. One of the things we recognize is that, nationwide, and hopefully we'll talk more about this, but nationwide, there's a challenge with faculty diversity. We know that we don't have a lot of faculty that reflect the community that we serve and our student population. And one of the ways to make sure that even in the absence of the most diverse faculty that we could have, we still want to make sure that we're equipping our faculty to engage in conversations that reflect knowledge of diversity, equity, and inclusion issues, and making sure that they're using inclusive strategies in the way that they teach students. So that's been a really important resource for our faculty and staff. And then we also launched in 2016 as well, a Project Allies Safe Zone workshop, which is an LGBTQ awareness program. And I have to say, I don't pick favorites, but it's probably one of my favorite sessions that we do every year. One of the reasons I love it so much is because everyone who takes those workshops always has so many ideas about how we can do better to support our LGBTQ students on campus. And so every time we host a workshop, we come up with a new resource that we need to develop and grow. And so I'm really excited about how far we've come in terms of our support for LGBTQ students, faculty, and staff over the last several years. The third strategic imperative is institutional climate and intergroup relations, and it's all about community building. It's all about making sure that we're supporting communities coming together, celebrating diversity, and cultivating inclusion. We have a number of student organizations. Last I heard it was over 200. I'm sure VP Cottenham can correct me if I'm wrong there. But we have so many student organizations that are really vibrant and really active on our campus community. A couple of things that we wanted to really do is do a better job of supporting our graduate student community. We partnered, I saw Dean Mary Farmer-Kaiser's on the call today. Really great to see her. She's been a really great partner in the work of the Campus Diversity Office. And several years ago, she and I partnered to envision the James Jackson Community of Scholars, which is a network of support for underrepresented graduate students, named after James Jackson, the first African-American to receive a graduate degree here at the university. So those are just on the screen. You'll see just a sampling of the programming that we've done over the past several years. for the James Jackson community of scholars. And then of course we have employee resource groups, which are opportunities for employees to come together with common interests and goals and form community and build community and be supportive of each other. The longest standing one is the Black Faculty and Staff Association, over 30 years strong, has been an active advocate here on campus for the needs of Black students, faculty, and staff. Obviously that association predates even my office. And so, you know, I think that organization plays a really important role in supporting Black students, faculty, and staff on campus. And then I also want to shout out Young University Professionals Association, YUPA, also a really popular employee resource group. I think I've aged out of the Young University, Tucker's nodding, yes, in agreement that I've aged out. And on the screen, you'll see kind of a snapshot of their social media presence. They host events like happy hours. So yeah, I've aged out because I have toddlers now, so I don't have time for happy hour. But yeah, those are a couple of examples of ways that employees can plug into communities on campus. Institutional infrastructure is the next strategic imperative, and it's really about creating an institutional infrastructure that supports our progress in achieving diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. So things like strategic plans, things like mission, vision, and values, making sure that we are aligning across the institution to support diversity, equity, and inclusion, creating policies within various departments that support diversity, equity, and inclusion. I also highlight here our campus diversity newsletter, which we just launched this fall, in fall 2019, this past fall. And it's really a way to kind of create a single voice for all of the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives that are happening across the university. And so we pull together all of the seminars that are being hosted within various departments, or all of the student activities that are happening within student engagement and leadership, campus-wide activities that are related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's really a great way to see kind of in a snapshot all of the things that are happening related to diversity, equity, and inclusion on campus. And then lastly, the last strategic imperative is around community engagement. And really, it's an opportunity. I know a number of you on the call today are community members and alumni. So it's really an opportunity for us to engage with you guys and really think about our role as a university in terms of our community partnership and in terms of, being a resource to the community, having a lot of intellectual capacity and an opportunity to partner with community groups and alumni to really advance diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. A couple of events I'll highlight here. We have an annual Women's Leadership Conference. These are some snapshots of the promotional materials from this past year. It's always really well attended. We'll be doing a virtual event this coming spring, so be on the lookout for information about that. But that's a really great way to engage the local leadership community around how we can better support women to advance in leadership roles. And then also around alumni and community engagement, we've done a couple of partnerships with community organizations like Leadership Institute of Acadiana and Lafayette Consolidated Government to do targeted programming around diversity, equity, and inclusion for nonprofits and community boards and commissions. And then, of course, this event is an example of trying to, engage the community around these issues. So State of #BlackUL is an example of the ways that we're connecting with the community. So that's really all that I wanted to share, and I'm gonna quickly exit stage right and give time to my fellow panelists here, but I wanted to kind of set the tone for the discussion in terms of this broader framework for how each of us can contribute to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion here on campus. These are all the ways that you can connect with the Campus Diversity Office. We welcome the opportunity to partner with you. We welcome the opportunity to hear your concerns and to hear your ideas. And so we hope that you will reach out to us and connect with us for opportunities to partner on any and all of these initiatives. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And so before we jump into the formal presentation, I think Dr. Savoy has joined us, and I want to give him an opportunity. I want to just point out that, the the support for the diversity initiatives and our strategic plan for inclusive excellence really does come from the top. I've been really impressed. I don't know that I've ever told him this to his face, but I'll say it here today that I've been really impressed by Dr. Savoie's commitment and his willingness to be a strong voice, especially in the last few months, in support of the diversity, equity, and inclusion goals that we've set for the university, and really being a strong leader for pulling together the university's resources and pulling together the energy that everyone has around these issues and helping to move us forward. So I want to say thank you to Dr. Savoie and give him an opportunity to say hi and say a few words.
Well, thank you, Taniecea, and I appreciate that. Normally, you're slapping me around. It's nice that you can be nice to me.
Begging for something.
I really was impressed as I was watching your presentation with the comprehensiveness of it and all the many initiatives that you have underway to address these issues. And so I want to thank you and all the people that have been helping you to develop what I think is really a first-class effort. And we just need to keep it going. You know, this spring we were faced with two diseases. One, COVID-19, is new. The other, racism, is chronic. But overcoming both of them will take examination, understanding, cooperation, and hard work. And so you've laid out, I think, a good roadmap for us, set up a lot of initiatives for us to make sure that we're doing that work and that we're continuing to make progress. So I appreciate the fact that you invited me to participate, and I'm anxious to hear what other people have to say. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'll go ahead and introduce briefly each of our panelists as it's time for each of them to speak, and I'll give them an opportunity to say more about who they are, what their role is here at the university, and their perspective when it comes to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion, in particular when it comes to supporting our Black students, faculty, and staff. So go ahead and first kick it off with, let's go ahead and start with Vice President Cottenham, our Vice President for Student Affairs.
Hello, everyone. I am happy to be with you this evening. I tried to look at the names as we were coming on, and I'm being careful because I don't want to, get out of this unexpectedly as far as Xing myself out, but I recognized a couple of the names, and it's great to see so many people with us this afternoon. I recognize some of those names as people that probably knew me when I worked in financial aid, which was a long time ago. And then when I moved to student affairs, and I have had the opportunity to work with students most of my professional life, and it has been a joy for me for 35 years. I get to work with a leader like Dr. Savoie, who, like Taniecea said just a few minutes ago, has really embraced these issues that we're dealing with and has really provided leadership for us. I currently work in student affairs as the vice president, and so my role is to ensure the welfare of students, their health, their safety, their engagement, involvement. It's to make sure that students have a great out of classroom experience. When I was a young professional, we used to think that academic affairs and student affairs were separate. And so we never sort of collaborated or crossed the lines on what does it really take for a student to be successful in college. And then we learned, either through research or, this really makes sense, started working with each other. And now we don't make decisions about student affairs without academic affairs being involved, and vice versa. And it's because we are addressing the needs of all of our students. The issue with the Black Lives Matters is something that for me has been a little bit personal. I have talked to students who are afraid, students who are anxious about all of this, and students are worried, what's going to happen. And so having those conversations with students has made me, realize that we have to be our best as a university, and I think we are really trying to do that. I had the opportunity about a month ago a couple of our student leaders from 2 of our organizations on campus, asked if they could meet with me and the president. And so we had an opportunity to meet with 2 student leaders. I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit and look at some of the notes that I made when I talked with them. I thought that they were very articulate. They presented themselves in such a dynamic, articulate way, and it just reminds me of the students that we have on campus. One of the things, you know, the way they started off was to tell us what they thought we were doing right. And they told us that they thought that when we went to them that we responded, and they thought that we were sincere in our responses. But the thing that they thought that we could do better was that they didn't want us to be as reactionary, you know, as it seems. It seems as though when something happens, you know, everybody, you know, starts to try to deal with it, when they felt like we could continue to have some of this dialogue and to sort of prepare ourselves for times like this. So some of the students shared that they talked to their fellow students and they didn't feel safe in light of some of the situations that we're dealing with in the world, you know, surrounding the Black Lives Matter movement. They have seen things, graffiti that's been written. They're seeing things on social media. They're seeing things in, you know, other parts of the campus and in the community. And so they don't necessarily feel safe. And we talked about some safe spaces, which I'll get to in a minute. They told us that they thought that attendance by our Black students was declining, but I think Dr. Bowie will talk about that a little bit later. And I don't think that that is the case, but we certainly want that perception to be, you know, we want to clear that up for our students. They talked about, let me get to my next page, renaming of buildings that are on campus, you know, some of the names that are there, and Dr. Savoy may want to talk a little bit more. I know I can briefly say that he has a committee that's been put together with students serving on the committee, but primarily academia, you know, who are doing a very sort of historical, comprehensive, you know, look at, you know, why buildings were named, who were they named for, you know, the life of that person during the time. So I think by the end of the semester, we're hoping to have more information about that. They talked about police reform, you know, and that they felt like there was more that we could do. And so for us, it was a time to listen to them. It was a time to hear what they had to say and to let them know that we wanted to talk more. So when we left that meeting, they were going to go back to their memberships and they were going to come to us with something more formal. Our meeting with them was sort of a casual get to know you kind of meeting where, you know, they shared a lot of things, but I think they have some other things that they want to share with us. So they were grateful, especially to have Dr. Savoy present. I reminded them after the meeting that Dr. Savoy will always say yes to students. And so whenever we're ready to meet again, we're going to, you know, we're going to make sure that that can happen. You know, in student affairs, the thing that we're responsible for is growth and development of students. And some of the things that students are asking us for now, we've been talking about it for probably about a year or maybe a year and a half. And that is a sort of a space for our students. Our Black students are wanting a place that they can sort of, you know, feel comfortable with, that they can sort of call their own. It wouldn't necessarily be just for our African-American students, but a place that, you know, there would be a staff member that would be there to understand their needs. And those are the conversations that we had before we had the meeting with the students. And so we're working on that. We have told them, and the president told them, so I guess it's kind of, we're going to do it for sure, is to make sure that we make that happen. And so hopefully, you know, after COVID settles, if it settles, you know, we can sort of figure out if we're going to be, you know, how we're going to be doing this semester. We think we understand. Every day there's something new that's going on with that. But so our conversations with the students have been good. Nobody in student affairs or at the university wants to hear from a student that they don't feel safe. You know, that is something that we never want to hear from a student. So I have been in touch with those 2 young men that I met with who are representing their organizations. And we're going to be planning to meet again, and we're going to bring more people in. COVID has kind of challenged us a little bit because we haven't physically been on the campus since March, and we're coming back, but a lot of students are still doing remote instruction. And so it's a little bit different than when we left. But we are going to continue to dialogue with our students in student affairs. You know, we want to make sure that, you know, students, you know, continue to grow and to develop and to become the citizens that they are destined to be. And so, so we care about our students, and we are going to make decisions and make choices that will benefit them and their health and wellness and safety. So in student affairs, our areas touch students' lives every day. I see some of my colleagues are on the line now. And so we are always looking at ways to try to make sure that we are inclusive, that we, you know, think about our population of students. The conversation has been, you know, really focused on our Black students now. We work very closely with the Office of Campus Diversity and Taniecea. You know, we have some programming that we've done. And so we are going to continue to work with our students. We are going to continue to listen to our students. We're going to continue to engage them. We're going to continue to let them know that we are here for them, and that if there's something that we're not doing or that we need to do better, we can have those kinds of conversations. I think that the students know that we are here. I think what we have to remember as staff is that sometimes we need to go to them and not wait for them necessarily to come to us. And so that's the thing that we're trying to do. The young men that we met with were supposed to have a list to me, and when they didn't have it, after 3 or 4 weeks, I sent them a text, you know, because I want to make sure they know that, you know, we're waiting on that information so that we can continue our dialogue. So I am, I'm happy to work with the students. It's a great place to be in higher ed, to work with students on a daily basis. They're depending on us. You know, their growth and development is depending on us. And so we have lots of partners. I was asked the question, this was probably a little bit early on after COVID, about the makeup of our staff in student affairs. And so I was happy but not excited to say that we have about 26% of our staff in student affairs is African American. And so, and I say all that to say, kind of similar to what Taniecea said early, was one of the things that we have always thought about and always sort of aimed for was to have our staff look like our population. And so it's important for students to see people of color, you know, when they come to our offices. And so there's work to be done. We are not, you know, we're not doing a bad job, but we can do a better job. And so we're going to be very intentional, or let me say more intentional about things that maybe we thought we were being intentional about, but we're going to be very intentional, you know, as we go forward. So it's great to see so many people on the call today. I see some people that were involved on campus, and it's great, you know, to see you on this call. I know many of you were involved in our student affairs programming. It's good to be with you this evening, and I look forward to talking with you some more. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. I've been really impressed by our student leaders, especially through the summer. I feel like a number of them have stepped up. And one of the things that I observed from our students, and this is not, you know, unique to this group of students, you know, students over the decades have risen to the challenge and risen to the moment. But one of the things I've been really impressed with this group of students is that our current students are looking to leave a legacy. I really feel as though they want to be able to see the change happen on the campus, and they've been really great partners in the work. So really impressed by our students and our student affairs division in particular in spearheading the initiatives that help to build those leadership qualities. So thank you for that.
We have great students.
Yeah, so now we'll go ahead and turn over to Dr. DeWayne Bowie, who is our Vice President for Enrollment Management, who can speak a bit about perhaps some enrollment trends over time and some targeted programming and interventions that he's been a part of to help support our students.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Mallery. Again, I want to thank you, Dr. Mallery, for organizing such an important event. Thank you for all the work that you do for this. Again, I want to thank our president, Dr. Savoy, for his full support of inclusiveness and diversity. He's been doing that for as long as I've known him, and that's one of the things that I'm most impressed and very appreciative of Dr. Savoy for. And again, as well, our audience. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to have this discussion around some very important things that not only impacts us all personally, but it impacts our region, our state, our nation, and the world. So thank you for being here and being a part of that. My name again is DeWayne Bowie, Vice President for Enrollment here at the university. My background, just briefly here, I'm actually a very proud alum of this university. Received 2 degrees here, my undergrad degree and my master's degree from this university. In my undergrad years, back many years ago in the 80s, I was a student that lived on this campus, knew what the dorms were like, knew what campus life was like, truly enjoyed it. And you know I love this place because I lived in Roy Hall, so I know I'm going before a lot of y'all out there, but those who know Roy, no air conditioning. Think about living in a residence hall with no AC in the dead of the South in August and July and all that stuff, but I really love this university. It made an impression upon me, and look at me now, I'm still here. I've been at this university now for 30 years. Time truly does fly. And my first introduction to this university professionally was through the financial aid office. And that really made an impression upon me because I became to realize something about myself that I didn't know. We always talk about trying to find your passion. Young people, often it's difficult for them to find that. And even some of us that are not as young. And for me, I don't really know if I really understood where my place was or what the difference I could make in this world. When I became a member of that financial aid staff, and when I was interacting with all these young people who had a lot of the same experiences as myself, and when I saw that the work that we did made a difference, that is when, to me, because my salary was not a really great salary, you know, computer scientists with my undergrad degree, they were making some big money out there across the United States. But when I saw that I could truly make a difference in these young people's lives, salary became secondary, and what I was doing became primary. And that is why I think I am still here, because I truly feel that this place does make a difference in the lives of our people. And it's most important, with the biggest investment and the most important investment that we can make as a university and as a nation. So I'm very proud of doing that. But along the enrollment side, my job is, of course, when we talk about diversity and representation of students, you know, the first thing people look at is your enrollment. They want to see what your student body looks like, because that says a lot about what you hold as important and near and dear to the university. And so when I talk about enrollment, our goal is to admit students who have the requisite background to be successful. I think that's one of the most important things in a statement that I want to make again. You know, that our goal is to admit students who have the requisite background to be successful. Shame on a university that may admit a student when they know that the student, this is not the right fit or the right place for them. Always bring a student to your campus where you know you have the support, be it financial, academic, social, emotional support to help that student to cross the finish line. That's truly what it's all about. And at the same time, our goal is to have a diverse population of students reflective of our region. One of our big goals as well. Admitting a student is very easy, but retaining and graduating a student is where the hard work happens and what I think counts most. There are many predictors that are used by colleges and universities across the nation that gives colleges some insight into how successful a student will or might be on their campus based on some background information. What I think is most impressive and is an indicator of the difference a college really has on student success development is when the student is able to experience success, the higher rate those numbers predict. What we try to do at UL is level the playing field and provide the support to students to increase the likelihood of their success. The areas that I deal with on the enrollment management side, we have financial aid, we have recruitment, we have veteran services, we have a student orientation staff, we have, of course, the admissions office. And so you have to make sure that when you're talking diversity and you're talking inclusiveness, that your policies, your people reflect what you preach and what you say that you do. And that's what we try to do every day. If you look at our staff, our recruitment staff, those that are out there in the high schools and in the communities, beating the bushes and bringing in the new students who are bright-eyed and want to save the world and conquer the world, well, your recruitment staff as well has to reflect that diversity. Try to do that in every way that we can. You also have to make sure as well that your policies do the same. And so when you look at the ways that we admit students, things that we do to try to retain students, make sure that we're very inclusive, pay attention to the data, because we know that, ACT and GPA, they tell you a lot, but they don't tell you everything. So we try to look holistically at our students, see something even different and more in them. We can then bring them to this campus where they can make a difference on our campus, really move this university forward. So we do that each and every day. What we also try to make sure of, I don't feel that, that you only have to have Black staff just to interact with Black students. Black recruiters who should only recruit high schools that are predominantly Black. What I do feel that when you look at the staff as a whole, having diversity such as geographical diversity, gender, race, background, sends a very clear message that the institution places a high level of importance on diversity that we live today. At our institution, financial aid, support, all very important to student success. Almost 90% of our students are from the great state of Louisiana. And as we all know, Louisiana is a very high poverty rate state. We have about 76% of the adult population that are 25 and over that actually have a bachelor's degree. 75% of them do not have a bachelor's degree. Praise that. So about 23.4% of our adult population in Louisiana have a bachelor's degree. I mentioned bachelor's degrees because that is where the degree offerings at UL begin. There is nothing wrong, and actually there is a high value associate degrees as well as technical degrees, particularly in Louisiana. There's limited opportunities for students with bachelor's degrees and a growing number of opportunities for students with technical and associate degrees. And we actually have a great relationship with our local community college, South Louisiana Community College, where we share students. Many students that want to begin next door, that's nothing wrong with that. It's a great way to begin your college career if you feel that's your best fit. But we have great transition programs for those students when they want to transition over and earn a bachelor's. We do appreciate SOCC for what they do with us every day, making that a reality for many of our students. We have many students who leave college without a degree in hand because of economics and not because of intelligence and grit. Affordability is one of the biggest challenges for many of our students. That is why we as an institution pay close attention to low-income students, make every attempt to provide financial support to those who need it. As a matter of fact, just give you a few numbers. This university every year, we commit, in addition to federal and state financial aid, we commit almost $2.5 million student recruitment and student retention for our low-income students. Just recently, with the work of our Alumni Association and our UL Foundation, we have created a Keystone, we call it a Keystone Scholarship, that is focused on students who are middle income, or students who are having to struggle making ends meet to be retained on our campus. And those are the ones that we see a lot, that we can make a difference with a lot as well. There's a lot of money for those students on the low income. Pell grants, supplemental grants, work study, and other types of grants. Those on the high end have family support. Those in the middle are where we see a lot of struggles happen. And that Keystone Scholarship is already making a difference, and I know it will continue to do that for us. And what we're doing is a lot, but we also know it's not enough. We are making a difference. Let me share a little bit with you about our student body. The goal of UL, and you will find the same at many colleges and universities across our nation, is to have a student body reflective of the region in which you reside. Just in the Lafayette Parish, the majority of our population is white, Black, and Hispanic. For the sake of time, since our conversation today is focused on the Black population, I will focus on that perspective in my data. Lafayette Parish, 26.9% of the population is Black. UL Lafayette, 19.2% of our student body is Black. We have been hovering around 18, 19% for the last couple of years, and our goal is to improve. We want to be reflective of our community. Student success, as I mentioned earlier, is a true measure of the effectiveness of an institution. At UL, the graduation rate of our Black students is 40.37%, while nationally, when institutions like us have a graduation rate of 37.8%. We have increased that rate from 32.81% to 40.37% over the last 12 years. Very impressive movement for a group that has many, many challenges ahead of it. Let me share with you as well the recent accolades received by the university because of our efforts. The Washington Monthly recognized UL Lafayette recently as the 4th best college in the United States at helping lower income students earn college degrees. Why is that important to the conversation? Disproportionate number of our Black students are in that lower income category. We are very proud of all of our students and want to see all of them succeed, regardless of background, achieve college success. We are enrolling students who are seen by many statistics having odds stacked against them, earning a college degree. We are getting them to graduation. This did not happen by chance, folks. It was very strategic, very deliberate. We want to do better, and we will continue to improve. We feel that a student receives a unique, world-class education at UL Lafayette because of our program, because of our people, because of our region. We'll continue to move the needle from good to great and look forward to the day when our populations who have experienced challenges earning a college degree are experiencing the same level of success as our populations who have experienced fewer challenges. We have proven to be the difference maker. We'll continue to move the bar. Again, I want to thank you for your attention. I look forward to the conversation and engagement after this. Thank you again for your time, and thank each of you for what you do to be a difference maker. Thank you, Dr. Mallery.
Thank you, Dr. Bowie. That statistic that you shared about our retention rate increase over the last 12 years, I didn't know that. That is amazing.
Yes.
That is really amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So let's go on and move ahead with our panel. Next, we have Dr. Bobbie DeCuir, who serves as the Dean of University College.
I had to remember to unmute myself. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening. I'm happy to be here. Taniecea, thank you so much for putting this together. Tucker and I were talking earlier. We were supposed to do this last year, and I think some form of it went on. I'm not really sure. I had surgery during that time, so I wasn't able to take part, but I'm happy to be here today and to tell you a bit about University College. The former General Studies, the College of General Studies. That name was changed about 2 or 3 years ago. I never can remember dates. So just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on in the college, I'm really excited. There is so much work that we do in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion in that college. I've done that work for over 30 years now, and I'm always happy to partner with Taniecea and all those other individuals, Dwayne, in terms of maintaining our students in terms of retention and graduation. But let me tell you a little bit about University College, because we are making some changes that I'm certainly excited about. Currently, we have about 700 to 750 students in the college. 48% of them are males, 52% female, 25% Black, and about 67% white. The average age of the students in our college is 26, and each year, fall, spring, and summer, we graduate about 340 students. I think one of the things that we are doing currently in a University College in terms of our first generation and low income students, because we do have a large percentage of students on our campus that are first generation and low income in terms of Pell Grant recipients. We do advising with our students to the degree, because many of the students that are University College students, they are coming from other majors, and for a variety of reasons may have decided that, you know, that's not what I want to be when I grow up, and they come to us to graduate, which is always a good thing, because they can take that degree and go on to graduate school, professional school. We've had people go on to medical school, so it is a good first degree. In terms of our advising, because we know we're dealing with lots and lots of first generation students, we want to be very intentional in terms of helping them to navigate the university culture, knowing the things that they will need to know, not only to survive in the culture of the university, but in the workforce. One of the things that we're doing, and Taniecea is going to be involved in this, and I guess I'm putting her on the spot, is the designing of a course, cultural fluency or global fluency for our students, so that they can have an idea of what the workplace of tomorrow is going to look like. How will they be able to effectively work with people from varying backgrounds? I feel like that's a huge initiative in our college that we're undertaking. It's going to be an online course. Taniecea is actually taking her Courageous Conversations workshops and morphing that into a course for our students. So we're very excited about that. That sort of segues into our online completers program, and very similar to what Dwayne said earlier, we have a huge population of a huge population of individuals in our state, 25 years or older, without college degrees. And we know that in tomorrow's world, which is today, four-year college degrees are what people will need in order to get a job. I'm happy to say that in our online program, the Adults Completer program, we have about 218 students currently matriculating. We have graduated since 2017 was the first semester of our online program. We've graduated more than 75 students. So it speaks to the need for such a program. We're also currently in conversations with our system to talk about initiating a degree name change. And that sort of speaks to the growing need to address curriculum integration of programs by clarifying the terminology of older programs, such as the Bachelor's of General Studies degree, that really do utilize the tenets of interdisciplinarity. And so we're trying to get up to speed and making that name change, thinking that that degree will be more palatable, that name change will be more palatable to individuals. So we're working with the system currently to do that. And hopefully that's going to happen within the next year. In terms of all of the other departments that are under our college, I have the pleasure of working with lots of individuals from the Department of Special Services. And those are our TRIO programs. Those programs, we have 14 such programs on our campus. And those individuals work with first generation and low income students. Now, those are not race-based programs. However, this is Louisiana, and we certainly have a larger number of families that live in poverty in this state. And unfortunately, African-American individuals tend to be disproportionately represented on those roles. So those programs have a high percentage of African-American students, and it gives us an opportunity to work with them and those students from other backgrounds who fit the criteria in terms of making sure that they are retained on our campus, that they go on to graduate, that they feel accepted on the campus. And the way that we do that, we work with the administration in terms of committees that devise policies and procedures for those students. So we certainly have representation on those committees and make sure that that happens. I'm happy to say that the retention rate and the graduation rates in those programs either equal or exceed the university's rate. We also have, in those programs, we have 8 that are outreach programs. So we work directly with the community. The numbers in those programs, 2,000 plus students, and we go out to a 9-parish area. We assist students in terms of enhancement and English. We also aid them with scholarship and financial aid applications. They come to our campus during the summer for enhancement. Those that are graduating come and spend their first summer at UL as college students. And so, you know, that work is extremely important, and it speaks to our leadership at the university that welcomes not only the programs on our campus, but our students when they come in. These students have been on our campus, these programs rather, have been on our campus for 50 years. And we have someone on our staff that's been there for that entire time, and that's Mr. Robert Carmouche. He's certainly to be you know, thanked for all of the work that he's done in terms of retention and graduation of students from first generation and low income backgrounds. We feel poised to assist Taniecea in her diversity plan because much of what she is forwarding certainly fits within our strategic plan for the college. And so we're always asking her to partner, and she's always been such a willing partner for us. The other area under University College, which is new, and that happened when we changed the name, we now have the Honors College that is under our college. And those students, and I think it makes sense because those students come from a variety of colleges, you know, so they are interdisciplinary, for lack of a better word. But that college consists of about 1,160 students. It's very diverse. I talked with Julia today. She said, I can't give you the exact numbers, but we have African Americans, Native Americans, Latinos. We have people from all over the world that are involved in this college. And every year I talk to the Honors College, their board, and I'm always so pleasantly surprised at the level of engagement that these students have, not only with the honors program itself, but with the university at large. It truly speaks to how, you know, those co-curricular things are important to student and why that is so important in lots of the things that we do at the university. But that program itself has, the students that enter must have at least a 3.2 GPA to enter and about a 26 ACT. If they do a thesis, honors thesis, they have to maintain a 3.5 GPA. So I feel as though that we certainly are one of the vanguards in terms of making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion happens. I always say to individuals when I speak to them, you know, we can easily have diversity, right? Simply by making sure that we have lots of people. But when you have a place like UL and inclusion is what you feel, that makes all the difference. And I think it has a lot to do with our leadership, and certainly with the leadership of Dr. Savoy. I've had many conversations with him about diversity, and I feel like I know his heart in this regard, and I am always happy to say to students that we certainly have an opportunity to go before him and speak our minds about what's going on. We certainly want to be there for our students, and we want to be there for all of our students. It's important. I love the job that I do. I love the fact, the only thing I don't like, guys, is that every other semester you have a darn birthday. And so it just feels like you're aging a lot quicker than you would in any other arena. But I'm happy to be here today. I see lots of people that I recognize, names that I recognize from way back in the day. Don't you dare say anything about my age, guys. But thank you for being here. And thank you again, Taniecea, for setting this up for us.
Thank you, Bobbie. And now that you've called me out publicly for teaching that global fluent, I see exactly how you're coming. But you know, I'm really excited to develop this course. I think it's a great example of how faculty and our deans are taking a leadership role and making sure that we're infusing diversity, equity, and inclusion into the curriculum, which is critical. And that's a really great example of that. So I'm happy to support those efforts however I can.
Said in front of how many people?
I know. Now I gotta get to work. All right, so rounding out the panel, we got Paul Thomas to wrap us up. Paul is our Chief Human Resources Officer. Paul.
Thank you, Taniecea. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a true pleasure to be here, and I'd like to really thank Dr. Mallery for inviting me to be a part of this very important conversation. I am Paul Thomas. I am the Chief Human Resources Officer at UL Lafayette. I've been here for about 5 years. I came here from Memphis, Tennessee, so I am not native to Louisiana or Lafayette. In fact, before I learned about the job, I had actually never heard of Lafayette, which is interesting. So, so to just kind of give you a little bit about my background, again, I'm from Memphis. I graduated from Tennessee State University. I have spent just over 30 years in human resources, and 27 of those years have been in the role of a Chief Human Resources Officer. So I've been doing this work for a really long time. One of the things, and I think this is important to my story, is that what really compelled me to take the job here, because again, I had not heard of the university really, and I had not heard of Lafayette. So coming here was kind of a change for me. But it was when I came down here for an interview, and I had an opportunity. First, I had a young man, African-American, who gave me a tour of the university, tour of the campus. And this was, you know, in the spring, so the weather was nice. And I was really impressed with him and talking to him and finding out what his experience was, because for me, the student experience is really important in terms, it tells you a lot about the place. And having worked at a community college for 22 years, that was the largest community college in the state of Tennessee, that was also approximately 70% African-American. So my experience was a little different. So this was definitely going to be a change for me. So talking to him, I was really impressed. He really loved the university. And over the course of the couple of days that I was here, I was able to talk to a number of African-American students. And when I asked them, how they felt about the university, they were all positive. But there was one thing they really didn't like about UL Lafayette, and they said the parking sucked, right? So that was the only real complaint that anyone had. But what really impressed me more than anything else was the time I spent in the cafeteria on my own, having a meal, was that just the level of inclusiveness I saw amongst the student body. I don't think I saw a single table in the cafeteria where it was just Black students or just white students. It was the way that socialized and seemed to enjoy one another, that was really, really refreshing. And it told me a lot about the place that I could possibly be coming to. So when the offer was made, it wasn't just about, the opportunity to build a human resources department from ground up. It was about being a part of something that I thought was exceptional and had exceptional potential and needed an HR operation that supported that. So to kind of give you an overview of what we are responsible for in HR, it's a little bit of everything you can imagine HR being: benefits, compensation policies, things of that sort. But I'm also responsible for EEO, Equal Employment Opportunity, Affirmative Action, Title IX, ADA. So we really hold up the compliance end of the employee experience, which also affects the student experience. One of the things that we have really worked hard to do, and I think we've been really successful, and we couldn't be successful without Dr. Savoy's support, Mr. LeBlanc's support, that the notion of leveling the playing field, in a sense that rather than historically, the way decisions are made about certain things. I mean, when I came here, how people came and left the university was really left to individual department heads. There was not a great deal of structure. And then that also came on the level in the area of accountability. One of the things that I think we've been really successful in doing is helping build a framework that really does level the playing field, that there's one set of rules that apply to everybody. This notion of, rules only apply to certain people. I think we've done a really good job of removing that we with an HR infrastructure, modern HR, that we've been able to do that. When I came here, I think there were a total of 7 people in human resources. There are 17 people in human resources today, and we're able to really touch in a very systemized way every corner of the employee work-life experience. And as we continue to expand and grow, that's something that we want to try to ensure that all employees have a very unified, high level, high quality experience. To talk about, some of the things that we're really proud of, and one of the things that did not exist was, employees, for years and years and years worked without ever being evaluated. One of the things we were able to do is to implement performance evaluations within the past year or so. And in doing that, one of the things that we were also able to do is to include standards for the commitment to diversity and inclusion. So, when you consider what gets measured gets done, what better way to ensure that, that we have a way of looking at how effective we are and what our commitment is by measuring it. So that's a standard in everybody's performance evaluation. Another thing that we have been successful in implementing over the past couple of years, year or so, is taking all of our leadership folks through leadership training, supervisory training. And the training that we're doing is very intentional. It's based on concepts and principles of emotional intelligence. And the idea behind that is, if you want to make a difference in how we treat one another, then we start with it on a very emotional level, that we embed in our training concepts and principles of empathy, so that when our leaders are working with their employees, that they are hopefully imparting or they're displaying empathy and thinking about things from a standpoint of how they themselves would want to be treated and affected. So that's really an important part of what we're trying, one of the important parts of what we're trying to do. We also have a unit in HR that's really focused on employer relations. It's a boots on the ground, in your face, everywhere that we can touch you, we find you. Axel Vasquez, who's one of our HR business partners, he is the Energizer Bunny. He's everywhere. He is where you need him, when you need him. He will follow you, find you, whatever needs to happen. but his sole purpose is to make sure that our employees are being treated fairly and equitably, and that, you know, that the folks that are out there serving our students have what they need. He is our ears to the ground. Let's see. One of the things that also about human resources today is that we wanted to really make the employee experience uniform. When I first came here, one of the first things I noticed was that, you know, the type of service you got from HR depended on what type of employee you were. Here's an example. If you were a new faculty member and when we took you through your new hire orientation, someone sat with you for an hour and went over your benefits and explained retirement and talked to you about your options. If you were, someone who worked in facilities, then you were basically told that, you know, if you're interested in insurance, just try to make an appointment and somebody will meet with you. Now, if you stop and think about that for a second, who really needed the one-on-one attention? Who needed the more proactive approach? So one of the first things we changed was that we made sure that every single employee we hire gets the same experience. They get the same opportunity, they get the same level, or even more so, whatever level of instruction they need, so that they can make educated decisions. Because what was happening was some of the benefits that the employees who really needed it, they weren't getting it. For example, long-term disability. Who needs long-term disability more than the folks who are more likely to be injured on the job? You know, some of our facilities folks, our police officers, folks like that. So we want to make sure that, you know, all employees were getting the same experience. And I think that's an important thing. You know, when I think about diversity and inclusion, I think about, you know, cake. I love cake, but if all I eat is cake, then I'm eventually going to become a very unhealthy and eventually die of obesity or what have you. So I don't think about diversity and inclusion as being a good thing. I think of it as a necessary thing. I think it's necessary that, you know, we have as diverse and an inclusive environment as possible, because otherwise, you know, we're missing out. We're getting less than what we should have. We're not as effective as we could be. You know, one of the things about human resources is we have created an environment that every single employee at the university who comes in and, you know, works with us, you know, they have a welcoming, comforting environment where, you know, I think HR is one of the most diverse departments on campus right now. I think we are, out of the 17 people, you know, 47% are people of color, 41% are African American. So I think that plays an important part in people feeling as though they have a place they can go and receive the kind of services they need to be successful as an employee. So there are a number of things and a number of initiatives we have underway in HR. One of the things that, and Dr. Savoy and I've talked about this quite a bit, is we're in the process of, we just recently overhauled our affirmative action program. And we're also in the process now of looking at overhauling our hiring practices so that we can be more intentional in terms of hiring and recruiting a diverse workforce. You know, the university's overall full-time workforce is roughly 20%, just over 20% African American. But when you look at our faculty, they're just under 6% of our faculty are African American. So there's a lot of work and a lot of opportunity there for us to do a better job. But part of that will require us looking at our systems and systemizing how we recruit, how we review, how we select employees at the university, including our faculty. So there are a lot of things that we have going on, and I think there's a lot of opportunity. But I think most importantly, one of the things that I love about the university and I love about the community is that this is a community of people with very big hearts and very open minds, I believe, in a lot of ways. And I think that, you know, it's all the things that make us great. Part of what we're attempting to do through human resources is to package that up so that we can keep replicating it over and over and over again. So, you know, that greatness gets felt in every experience every employee and every student has at the university. So I don't know if that's my 10 minutes or not, but.
You're right on time. Perfect. Thanks, Paul. That was great. And Paul's not lying. I think he's the one person I see in the cafeteria almost every day. So kudos to you for being able to eat in the cafeteria every day for lunch, because that's a feat in and of itself.
It's a pleasure. The food's great. And it's also good to see the students. I mean, that's
yes.
the part of it. It reminds me of why I'm here.
I can totally see that for sure. Thank you. So that was great. And I've been monitoring the chat box. We have about 12 minutes, maybe a couple minutes if you'd like to stay, a couple minutes past 7. But I've been monitoring the chat box for questions, and I appreciate all of you for chiming in and being so engaged in the chat. I wanted to if Tanya, I don't know if Tanya's still on the line, but I want to give an opportunity if she is here. Tanya Bolden-Ball currently serves as the president of the Christiana Smith Alumni Chapter. And I know there's been a couple of questions. She's on mute, so we'll have to ask her to unmute. I think Tucker's on it. But I would love to give Tanya an opportunity to say a few words about the Alumni Chapter, because I know quite a few of you in the chat have expressed interest in that. So Tanya?
Good afternoon. Tucker had me in mute timeout for the entire time, but I understand. So I'm so excited, myself along with Ruben Henderson. I saw Ruben on the screen, and VP Cottenham and many others. We are members of Christiana Smith African American Alumni Chapter. I became president as of July 1st. And we're so excited. One of the things that we're going to focus on is engagement. Not only engagement with the students, but engagement with alumni from UL. So we have some great things coming down the pipeline, and we're really going to take advantage of this virtual space that we're in to really create a larger increase in engagement. And I also want to share the good news that we just recently awarded 6 scholarships to 5th-year seniors. 6. And I wish I could have recorded the conversation, because some of them called me back and said, oh, I thought it was spam. I said, no, dear, I'm giving out money. This is not spam. So please know that we have some great information coming down the pipeline as it pertains to Christiana Smith. I'm working closely with Tucker to figure out to create the framework. And we're also going to create a strategic plan for Christiana Smith African American Alumni Chapter. And it's just great to be on here, and y'all make sure y'all join the conversation on Thursday. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Tanya. And great plug for the conversation on Thursday. I saw that Tucker had placed the link in the chat box as well. If you have not registered for that yet and still would like to do so, we want to plug that and encourage you. Same time, same place on Thursday this week. Any other questions in the chat box that I missed? Tucker's my left-hand man.
Yeah, there was a question. There was a question up earlier. I think Dennis Dent. Where are you, Dennis? I'm going to go on and let you speak as well. So,
perfect.
Dennis, you there? Tell me if you got unmuted or not.
Yeah. So I had a quick question. First of all, thank you guys for pulling this together. It's great to hear all the updates that are taking place on campus, and also to be a part of this, what feels like a virtual mini reunion. So I'm really excited and proud of all the work that you guys are doing. So hats off to you. My question is, what can we do as out-of-state alumni to support the ongoing recruitment efforts so we can increase that percentage that Dr. Bowie talked about? And also, are there things that we could be doing to help support the brand recognition of the university in the cities where we live in? Specifically, those of us who may live in urban areas like Chicago or near Detroit. So I'm interested to know those things.
I see Jennifer raising her hand, so I'm going to go ahead and give her the floor, because I think she's best positioned to answer that question. So Jennifer Lemonnier, Executive Director.
Perfect, thank you. I'll just speak on behalf of what alumni can do, but our alumni student recruitment program, for those on the line that are alumni, I'd like to invite you to participate. It's where alumni have the opportunity to be matched with a student, whether it's in your same geographic area or your major, and you write to that student who is interested in going to the university, who may have been admitted but not registered. So you can actually make the difference when they're teetering on the decision between two universities and you're telling about your personal experience. It makes a difference in that student's decision. We wrote to 1,000 students this spring for this fall semester, and we're looking forward to getting some data to see how many of those that we wrote to actually are registered and attending. But that's one way from the Alumni Association perspective that you can support admissions in reaching out to potential students. But there was a second part to your question that may be answered by another party.
Hey, Dennis as well. This is Dwayne Bowie. Again, thank you for your willingness to get involved in this whole effort. It does take a village. What you could do for us as well is just reach out to the recruitment team, and Ruben could be one that you reach out to in our recruitment staff, and we can look at where you actually live or reside. Probably have a regional recruiter. We have recruiters that live in Houston, Dallas, and we have one that takes care of territories between Mississippi all the way to Florida along the Gulf Coast. But there may be things that you can help us as far as, hosting a student event, if you want something like that we may have. We have send-off celebrations that we do where we have a celebration for those students who have actually committed to the university, and we have a send-off at that local location. So that's one way that you could do it as well. And then you may be able to attend some of our recruitment fairs with us. Now this year they're going to be pretty virtual is what we're hearing right now. So we're making adjustments to our recruitment plans to do that, but that as well could be an opportunity for you also. So have that conversation with Ruben. He'll connect with myself and our director of recruitment, who is Ms. Megan Sistrunk, and how we can integrate. That may be another opportunity.
Great. Thank you guys so much for chiming in with some responses there. Any other questions in the chat box? I saw a few people ask about the Keystone Scholarship, and there's some information that I saw Rebecca toss in there about that. So if you'd like to scroll up in the chat, if you want more information about Keystone, you can check out that resource as well.
I could talk a little bit about Keystone if I could as well. So Keystone, we right now have an annual, it's a brand new scholarship. Matter of fact, we just launched it about a month ago. And so our initial focus right now has been on retention. In other words, we have, as I mentioned in my presentation, we have many students where finances are a challenge for them to retain at the university. And so what we've done is we focus on those students who were enrolled in the summer or in the spring semester who have a debt to the institution, and that is what's stopping them from re-enrolling this fall semester. That focus for those students have been on those students who may not be Pell Grant eligible, but in the middle income area, and then we try to then help them to pay that debt so that they can then schedule their classes in the fall. So thus far, we have helped 35 students. I think we've dispersed somewhere around $75,000. The budget for that scholarship right now is right at $190,000, and we're trying to make that last for the year. So we'll also be helping students when it comes time to schedule classes for the spring. Those who are having some struggles in meeting their financial obligations, will be then helping those students to get that obligation taken care of so that they can then schedule their spring class. That account is going to be replenished every year for us. So we're excited about that. Just so that you do know, I did speak about the monies that the university is committed to retention and recruitment in the grant that we have that's for students who are Pell Grant eligible. And we contribute about $2.5 million a year to that. So that one focuses on Pell students, and Keystone focuses on those middle income students who cannot get Pell. I think we have a lot of our bases covered. And Mr. Dan as well, and any alums out there, another way you can really get involved and help us is make some donations to those scholarships. Jennifer Lamunia would be happy to receive any amount, be it $1 or be it $1 million. But that helps us to invest and reinvest in our education. Thank you for that.
Dr. Bowie, Dennis is almost a millionaire, so he can't give $1 million right now, but he can make a donation.
Hey, I'm thinking futuristic. When you get there and can write that check, we'll take it.
There you go.
I have confidence that he'll be there. He will be there.
So that's a perfect segue. Thank you. My name is Rebecca Ducey, and I work with development. And we are we partnered with the Alumni Association and Student Affairs for the Keystone Scholarship Initiative. And I'm just going to put a plug in that we've been charged by the President's Office and others to raise $100,000 a year for the next 3 years. And we have a dollar for dollar match from the Alumni Association's what is the name of it? The license plate fund. So we raised close to 100,000 this past year with only a few months, but we started over again on July 1. So we welcome your contributions. There's no gift too small and no gift too large. I'll put my email in the chat. You can reach out and we're happy to help you, help us make a difference in that way. So thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Rebecca. Any other questions in the chat box or topics that people would like more information? I see Kim Biado has posted a note about Cajun Compass, which is a new online mentoring and networking program for students and alumni. So we encourage you to check it out and connect. I've heard some updates that there's been quite a few connections being made on Campus Compass or Cajun Compass. So yeah, check it out. It's a really great opportunity to connect and build relationships. And it's a way for alumni to engage with current students as well. So that's a really great opportunity for Dennis and others who are looking for ways to connect outside of financial. Financial is great, but volunteerism is also really important. So thanks. Any other comments or questions?
I think we had one more comment about scholarships or question. Where is the list of scholarships that they can donate to? I think we have several. I think you can look, speak directly with Rebecca in development, who can help you with a lot of different areas. And with the Alumni Association as well, we have multiple different scholarships that we are in charge of too. So we'd be more than happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you, or if you're just directly interested, Rebecca's email was in there. Mine, I'll put mine in here as well too. So anybody who wants to reach out can do so as well.
Great, great, perfect. Well, it looks like we are 1 minute away from 7 o'clock. So in the interest of being right on time, I'm just gonna go ahead and again reiterate my appreciation for all of the panelists, for Dr. Savoie for being here, for all of you for joining us and signing up and engaging with the chat box and engaging with the Q&A time period that we've had this afternoon. We really encourage you to sign up for Thursday and show up for Thursday's panel. It'll be a really great complement to this, to really hear from our students and our alumni directly. Really excited to hear it, really looking forward to it. So please join us again, and thank you again for being here. And yeah, go Cajuns.
Oh, yeah.
Great seeing everybody.
Thank you. Bye. See ya.
Bye.